What is philosophy? What does it strive for, and what does it deal with? This video gives you an overview of the aim and content of philosophy. The term philosophy is made up of the two ancient Greek words philien, to love, to strive for, and sophia, wisdom, knowledge. You can therefore translate philosophia as love of wisdom or as pursuit of knowledge. This already indicates that man can never fully possess wisdom or knowledge, but only ever strives for it. Philosophy attempts to understand the nature of the world and human existence. Philosophical thinking is characterized above all by the fact that one becomes aware of and questions what was previously accepted without question. This awareness and questioning generates philosophical wonder. Wonder is the beginning of philosophy, the beginning of a philosophical attitude. The Greek philosopher Plato wrote, "For this feeling of wonder shows that you are a philosopher, since wonder is the only beginning of philosophy." Philosophizing means asking fundamental questions, giving unbiased, provisional answers to these questions, and supporting your answers with arguments. Among other things, philosophers examine whether human intuitions are consistent, that is, free of contradictions. They put forward theses and support them with arguments. They critically examine the arguments of others, introduce fundamental distinctions, and define terms so that they can then be used precisely. Questions in particular play a very important role in philosophy. Philosophy does not provide final answers, but is characterized by the fact that its provisional answers are constantly being questioned, critically considered, and examined. Philosophy is therefore an ever-advancing process of discussion. As soon as you can Google a clear answer to a question, it is not a philosophical question. Philosophizing, therefore, always means being aware of one's own ignorance. Socrates already recognized, "I know that I do not know," and with this insight, he was wiser than many of his contemporaries who only had supposed knowledge. Consequently, there is no canon of philosophical knowledge that is binding for everyone. Philosophical questions cannot be clearly answered by evidence, observations, or experiments. Clear answers to philosophical questions cannot be Googled. One can only approach the answer to philosophical questions through argumentation. And since all arguments are based on assumptions, and these assumptions can in turn be called into question, philosophical questioning and reflection do not result in generally binding answers, but rather further questions. When we deal with philosophy, we also try to find out what would follow from the possible answers to philosophical questions. There are pro and con arguments for all positions in philosophy. No answer is therefore the only possible or the only reasonable one. Everyone must consider for themselves how they personally evaluate the respective pro and con arguments and which answer convinces them the most. Let's take a look at the questions that philosophers deal with and get an overview of the various disciplines of philosophy. Aristotle divides philosophy into theoretical and practical philosophy. The two disciplines differ in their perspective. Theoretical philosophy is about understanding things, while practical philosophy is about optimal action. Theoretical philosophy is concerned with questions of the type, "What is the case?" Practical philosophy with normative questions of the type, "What should be the case?" The aim of theoretical philosophy is to find out or understand how things are. Classically, theoretical philosophy includes the disciplines of logic, metaphysics, ontology, epistemology, philosophy of science, and philosophical anthropology. Logic deals with correct argumentation. That is how certain conclusions can be drawn from certain premises. Metaphysics deals with the so-called ultimate questions, that is everything beyond nature. For example, life after death, the meaning of life, the existence of God, etc. Ontology is the doctrine of being and deals with concepts such as existence, being, becoming, and reality. Epistemology asks about the prerequisites for knowledge and how knowledge comes about. The philosophy of science deals with the prerequisites, methods, and goals of science and its form of knowledge acquisition. Philosophical anthropology with human nature, with different images of man. The aim of practical philosophy is to bring about things or actions that should be. Practical philosophy includes the disciplines of ethics, philosophy of law, political philosophy, social philosophy, theory of action, and economic philosophy. Ethics deals with the prerequisites and evaluation of human action, with human morality. The philosophy of law with law and justice. Political philosophy with criticism and the meaning of political action, as well as social and political systems. Social philosophy with questions about the meaning and nature of a society, with the relationship between the individual and the community and the structures of coexistence. The theory of action with problems that arise in connection with human action. And economic philosophy with the fundamentals and basic questions of economics and its sciences. We can see that, unlike other sciences, philosophy is not limited to a section of reality, but encompasses the whole of reality. Philosophy is a universal science. If you are interested in philosophical topics, please subscribe to this channel. There will be many videos on a wide variety of philosophical questions from different disciplines. The German philosopher Immanuel Kant outlines philosophy with his 4 famous questions: what can I know? What should I do? What may I hope for? And what is man? Kant himself assigns the question, what can I know? To metaphysics, the question, what should I do? To morality, the question, what may I hope for? To religion, and the question, what is man? To anthropology. For him, the first 3 questions are basically all related to the last question. According to Kant, metaphysics, morality, and religion can therefore be counted as part of anthropology. Today, we would categorize Kant's questions differently. According to today's definition, the question, what can I know, corresponds to epistemology, the question, what should I do, to ethics, the question, what may I hope for, to metaphysics, and the question, what is man, to philosophical anthropology. And what are the answers to these 4 questions? As mentioned at the beginning, philosophy does not provide any definitive answers. Kant did not find any definitive answers to these questions either. However, he dealt with all 4 questions in great detail in his works. With the first question in the Critique of Pure Reason, with the second in the Groundwork of the Metaphysics of Morals, the Critique of Practical Reason, and the Metaphysics of Morals, with the third question in the Critique of Pure Reason and the essay Religion Within the Bounds of Bare Reason, and with the fourth question in the essay Anthropology from a Pragmatic Point of View. The American philosopher David Lewis described philosophical work as follows: but when all is said and done, when all the tricky arguments and distinctions and counterexamples are discovered, we are probably still left with the question, which prices are worth paying, weighing everything against each other, which theories are credible, which counterintuitive consequences are unacceptable, and which might be acceptable after all. We can still disagree on this question, and when all is said and done, there is no hope of discovering any more arguments to settle our differences. Philosophy does not offer simple and universally valid answers, but merely an analysis of argumentative contexts. It does not tell us how something is or what we should believe, but shows us what consequences follow from certain assumptions. We should not blindly believe authorities and simply adopt their theories and formulas. The responsibility, therefore, remains with the individual thinking person. Ultimately, everyone has to decide for themselves what they think is right and convincing. Everyone has the freedom. Everyone can and must form their own opinion. Do you personally find philosophy useful? Which of the philosophical disciplines are you most interested in? Share your opinion in the comments section below.